The crystal temples of Zephyria had stood for over 10,000 years, their blue light pulsing with the rhythm of the planet's twin moons. Elder Kethvar moved through the sacred halls with practiced grace, his elongated form casting dancing shadows on the ancient walls. Tonight was different. Tonight, the prophecy stones were glowing brighter than they had in centuries. The Zephyrian High Council had gathered in the Chamber of Whispers, their silver robes rustling like wine through crystal chimes. Each member represented one of the 12 star systems that made up their peaceful alliance. They had ruled this sector of the galaxy for millennia, bringing order and harmony wherever they went. War was unknown to them. Violence was a concept they had long forgotten. "The stones speak again," whispered Council Member Yathera, her large violet eyes reflecting the pulsing light. The ancient warnings grow stronger. Elder Kethvar approached the central dais where 3 massive crystals floated in perfect formation. Each stone was the size of a small building, carved with symbols that predated their civilization. Legend said these stones came from the first race to achieve interstellar travel, the mysterious architects who had vanished eons ago. "Tell us what you see, Elder," requested Supreme Chancellor Mordun, the oldest among them. His voice carried the weight of 3,000 years of wisdom. Kethvar placed his 6-fingered hands on the scanning console. Immediately, his consciousness merged with the crystalline network. Images flooded his mind, visions of destruction, chaos, and a species unlike any they had encountered. His body trembled as the prophecy unfolded before his inner sight. "They come from a world of water and stone," he spoke, his voice echoing strangely as the crystals amplified his words. "A blue planet orbiting a yellow star. They are small, compared to us, walking on only 2 limbs. But their minds burn with something we do not possess." The council members exchanged worried glances. For generations, they had expanded their peaceful empire by converting aggressive species through diplomacy and superior technology. Every race they had encountered eventually saw the wisdom of their ways. The universe was vast, but it seemed to follow certain patterns. Intelligence led to enlightenment. Enlightenment led to peace. "What do these beings possess that troubles the stones?" asked Yathera, leaning forward in her floating chair. Kethvar's voice grew distant, as if speaking from across the galaxy. "They call it imagination. They dream of things that do not exist and, then, make them real. They see obstacles and create solutions that should not work, but do. They are builders and destroyers in equal measure." The visions came faster now. Kethvar saw massive metal ships that moved without any visible propulsion, powered by controlled explosions. He saw beings in primitive armor charging across battlefields, screaming challenges at enemies twice their size. He saw them taming fire, splitting atoms, and reaching toward the stars with unstoppable determination. "Most disturbing of all," Kethvar continued, his voice now barely a whisper, "they do not fear death. They embrace it as a teacher. They learn from failure and grow stronger. When faced with impossible odds, they do not surrender. They adapt." Supreme Chancellor Mordun stood slowly, his ancient bones creaking. In all his years, he had never seen the prophecy stones react this strongly to any species. "What does the prophecy say we should do?" The images in Kethvar's mind shifted, showing vast fleets moving through space, systems falling one by one. But these were not images of conquest through superior firepower. Instead, he saw something far more troubling: willing conversion. Species joining this new force not through fear, but through inspiration. "The stones show 3 paths," Kethvar announced. "We can try to destroy them before they reach the stars, but the probability of success is low. We can attempt to contain them to their home system, but the prophecy suggests they will eventually break free." Or what, Elder?" prompted Mordun. "We can try to understand them. To learn from them before they learn from us." A shocked silence filled the chamber. The idea of learning from a primitive species was almost unthinkable. The Zephyrian Empire had been teachers and guides for thousands of years. They were the ones who brought enlightenment to the galaxy. Council member Zarthek, representing the military systems, spoke up. "Surely you cannot be serious. If they are as dangerous as the prophecy suggests, we should act immediately." One surgical strike on their world while they are still bound by gravity. The stones have shown me their death, Kethvar replied sadly. Even if we sterilize their entire planet, somehow their ideas survive. Their way of thinking spreads to other species. The prophecy calls it the human contagion, not a disease of the body, but of the mind. Ithera's violet eyes widened. Human? Is that what they call themselves? Yes. And they name their world Earth. It is still many generations before they achieve interstellar flight, but when they do. Kethvar's voice trailed off as new visions filled his consciousness. He saw a future where the ordered galaxy of the Zephyrian Empire had become something chaotic and beautiful. Species that had been peaceful for millennia were suddenly building impossible machines, creating art that defied logic, and exploring regions of space that had been deemed too dangerous. The humans had not conquered through force, but through the simple act of showing others what was possible. They will teach the galaxy to dream, Kethvar said finally. And dreams, once awakened, cannot be contained. Supreme Chancellor Mordun walked to the great window that looked out over their crystal city. Below them, millions of Zephyrians went about their orderly lives, following patterns established over thousands of years. Everything was perfect, harmonious, and predictable. How long do we have? He asked. Kethvar consulted the stones one final time. The prophecy is unclear on exact time frames, but I see scattered references. They speak of centuries, perhaps a millennium before first contact. The humans are currently in what they call their atomic age. They have learned to split matter itself for energy. Incredible, breathed Zarthek. Most species require our guidance to achieve such technology safely. The humans achieved it through warfare, Kethvar replied grimly. They learned to harness the power of stars by first learning to destroy cities. This is their way. They find the most dangerous path and walk it until they master it. The council sat in contemplation for several minutes, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Supreme Chancellor Mordun turned back to address them. We have a choice to make, one that will define the future of our empire. We can prepare for war against an enemy unlike any we have faced, or we can prepare to meet them as students. The word hung in the air like a foreign concept. The Zephyrian Empire had never been students. They had always been the teachers. I propose we begin immediately, Mordun continued. We will establish observation posts in the systems surrounding their solar system. We will study them from afar, learning their ways, their strengths, and their weaknesses. When they finally reach for the stars, we will be ready. Ready for what, exactly? Asked Ithera. The Supreme Chancellor's expression was grave. Ready to discover whether the prophecy speaks of our doom or our transformation. As the council began to disperse, Kethvar remained connected to the prophecy stones. The visions continued to flow through his mind, glimpses of a future both terrible and wonderful. He saw humans standing alongside Zephyrians, their small forms dwarfed by their alien allies. But, in their eyes, he saw something that his people had lost long ago, the fire of unlimited possibility. The stones showed him one final image before releasing their hold on his consciousness. A human child, no more than a few cycles old, standing before a massive star chart and pointing to a distant galaxy. What's over there? The child asked, and, in that simple question, Kethvar heard the sound of the universe changing. When he finally disconnected from the crystal network, the elder found himself alone in the chamber. The other council members had departed to begin their preparations, but he remained, staring up at the ancient stones that had guided his people for so long. What are you trying to tell us? He whispered to the crystals. But they had fallen silent once more, their glow dimmed to its normal level. The prophecy had been delivered. Now it was up to the Zephyrians to decide what to do with it. Far across the galaxy, on a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, a species called humanity continued their slow climb toward the stars. They had no idea that their very existence had already begun to reshape the galaxy. They built their rockets and dreamed their dreams, unaware that ancient eyes were beginning to turn their way. The age of human expansion had not yet begun, but the universe was already preparing for their arrival. In the crystal temples of Zephyria, plans were being made. Fleets were being positioned. And, for the first time in their long, peaceful history, the Zephyrian Empire was about to encounter something they could not easily understand or control. The humans were coming, and nothing would ever be the same. Captain Sarah Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she climbed down from the cockpit of humanity's first interstellar vessel, the UES Endeavour. The ship didn't look like much a collection of metal tubes and spheres held together by determination and human stubbornness. It was ugly, inefficient, and, according to every computer model, should have fallen apart the moment it left Earth's atmosphere. Instead, it had just completed humanity's first successful faster-than-light journey. "Status report," she called out to her crew as they gathered in the cramped main corridor. The ship was barely large enough for its crew of 12, packed with jury-rigged equipment and backup systems for the backup systems. "All systems green, Captain," reported Chief Engineer Rodriguez, grinning despite the exhaustion evident in his eyes. "The quantum drive is holding steady, though I still don't understand why it works. According to the math, we should be scattered across 3 star systems right now." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the mission's xenobiologist, was already examining readings from their sensors. "We're detecting artificial structures on the 4th planet of this system. Definitely not natural formations." The crew exchanged excited glances. First contact had always been a possibility, but none of them had expected to encounter alien civilization on their very first interstellar voyage. The Endeavour had been sent to explore the Alpha Centauri system, the closest star to Earth. It was supposed to be a simple scouting mission, take some pictures, collect some data, and return home with proof that humans could travel between the stars. "Are they showing any signs of technology?" asked Martinez, moving to peer over Dr. Tanaka's shoulder at the sensor displays. "That's the strange part," Tanaka replied, adjusting the controls. "I'm reading massive energy signatures, but they don't match any known patterns. It's like their entire civilization runs on principles we haven't discovered yet." Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the ship's tactical officer, frowned at his own displays. "Captain, I'm detecting movement. Multiple large objects in orbit around that planet, and they're heading our way." Martinez felt her heart rate increase. Humanity's first contact with alien life, and they were in a ship held together with spare parts and hope. "How long until they reach us?" "At their current speed, maybe 6 hours. "All right, people, this is it. We always knew this was a possibility. Jackson, what's our tactical situation?" Jackson's expression was grim. "Honestly, Captain? If they're hostile, we're dead. Our only weapons are some mining charges we brought for asteroid sampling. Against ships that advanced." He shrugged helplessly. "Then, let's hope they're friendly," Martinez said with forced confidence. "Rodriguez, can we boost our communication array?" "Already working on it," the engineer replied, his hands flying over his control panels. "I'm rerouting power from life support. We'll have about 12 hours of enhanced comm range before we start breathing recycled air." Dr. Tanaka looked up from her instruments, excitement overriding her nervousness. "Captain, I'm detecting patterns in their approach that suggest intelligence. They're not just flying randomly, there's mathematical precision in their movements." "Good. That means we might be able to communicate with them." Martinez activated the ship's general comm system. "Attention all hands, this is the captain. As you're all aware, we have made contact with what appears to be an alien civilization. I want everyone to remember that we represent not just ourselves, but all of humanity. Whatever happens in the next few hours will determine how our species is viewed by the rest of the galaxy." The next 6 hours passed with agonizing slowness. The crew worked frantically to prepare their ship for contact, checking and rechecking every system. Rodriguez had managed to jury-rig their communications array to broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Dr. Tanaka prepared a basic mathematical greeting sequence. Jackson ran diagnostics on their minimal defensive capabilities, though everyone knew it was more for morale than practicality. When the alien ships finally appeared on their visual displays, the entire crew fell silent. The vessels were unlike anything human imagination had conceived. They looked like living crystals, their surfaces reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed to shift and flow. Each ship was easily 10 times the size of the Endeavour, and there were dozens of them. "My God," whispered Dr. Tanaka. "They're beautiful." Captain Martinez nodded, though she couldn't shake the feeling that they were insects being examined by giants. "Rodriguez, open all communication frequencies. Let's see if anyone wants to talk." For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, their communication array erupted with signals. Not random noise, but clearly structured patterns that suggested intelligence. "It's mathematical," exclaimed Dr. Tanaka. "Prime numbers, followed by. I think it's a language structure. Give me a few minutes to analyze this." While Dr. Tanaka worked, the alien ships continued their approach. Martinez watched them through the main display, marveling at their graceful movements. There was something almost dance-like about the way they positioned themselves around the Endeavour, forming a perfect sphere with the human ship at the center. "Captain," called Rodriguez from his station, "they're scanning us. I can feel it through the hull. It's like they're looking right through our ship." "Are they finding anything concerning?" "That depends on how you define concerning." "They're seeing everything, Captain. Our weapons, our technology, our life support, even our coffee maker." Despite the tension, several crew members chuckled at that. Trust Rodriguez to worry about aliens judging their choice of beverages. "Captain." Dr. Tanaka's voice was filled with excitement. "I've got something. They're using a base 12 mathematical system, but I think I can establish basic communication protocols." "Do it." Dr. Tanaka's fingers flew over her keyboard, sending carefully structured mathematical sequences toward the alien fleet. The response was immediate. Patterns of light began dancing across the hulls of the crystal ships, creating mesmerizing displays that seemed to pulse with meaning. "They're responding," Tanaka called out. "They're sending coordinates? And what looks like an invitation." "An invitation to what?" Before Tanaka could answer, the space around the Endeavour began to shimmer. Martinez felt a strange tingling sensation, as if the air itself had become charged with electricity. Then, without warning, their small ship was surrounded by a bubble of the same crystalline material as the alien vessels. "Rodriguez. Status report. All systems still operational, Captain, but something's changed. It's like we're being transported? But I'm not detecting any movement." "Because we're not moving," came a new voice, speaking perfect English through their communication system. "We are bringing you to us." The entire crew froze. The voice was clearly alien. There were subtle harmonic overtones that no human throat could produce, but the words were unmistakably in their language. "This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the UES Endeavour, representing Earth and humanity." "Who am I speaking to?" "I am Observer Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have been watching your species for some time. We are pleased to finally meet you directly." Martinez exchanged glances with her crew. They were clearly out of their depth, but she had to try to maintain some semblance of diplomatic composure. "Watching us? For how long?" "Several of your centuries. Since you first learned to split atoms, actually. We have been curious about your development." The crystalline bubble containing their ship began to move, carrying them toward the largest of the alien vessels. As they approached, Martinez could see that it wasn't just one ship, but an entire city floating in space. Structures that defied geometry twisted and flowed like living art, while beings moved through transparent corridors that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Your ship is interesting," Kethvar continued, and Martinez could swear she heard amusement in the alien's voice. "Our engineers are quite puzzled by your design choices." "Our design choices?" "Yes. You have created a vessel that should not function, using principles that our science says are impossible, and yet here you are." "It is very human." Rodriguez spoke up from his station. "I'm not sure if that was a compliment or an insult." "It was an observation," Kethvar replied. "Your species has a remarkable talent for making the impossible work through sheer determination. We find it fascinating." As their ship was guided into what appeared to be a docking bay, Martinez tried to process what was happening. These aliens, the Zephyrians, had been watching humanity for centuries. They had technology that made human science look like children playing with toys. And, yet, they seemed genuinely interested in talking rather than simply destroying or ignoring the primitive humans. "Why reveal yourselves now?" she asked. There was a pause before Kethvar answered. "Because according to our prophecies, your species represents either the salvation or the destruction of galactic civilization. We decided it was time to find out which." The docking bay they entered was vast beyond human comprehension. The Endeavour looked like a toy boat in an ocean as it settled onto a platform that seemed to be made of solidified light. Through the transparent walls, Martinez could see dozens of other alien species moving about their business, some tall and thin like trees, others flowing like liquid metal, and some that seemed to exist partially in other dimensions. "Welcome to Deep Space Station Harmony," Kethvar announced. "The crossroads of the Zephyrian Empire and your introduction to galactic civilization." As the crew prepared to disembark, Dr. Tanaka looked up from her sensors with wonder in her eyes. "Captain, I'm reading over 40 different species on this station. This isn't just first contact, we're being invited into an entire galactic community." Martinez took a deep breath, feeling the weight of representing all of humanity settling on her shoulders. Through the viewports, she could see alien beings gathering to observe the small ship that had somehow traveled between stars using technology that shouldn't work. "Well, people," she said to her crew, "looks like we're about to find out what humans are really made of." As the airlock cycled in, they prepared to take humanity's first steps into galactic civilization. None of them could have guessed that their simple act of stubbornly reaching for the stars would soon reshape the entire galaxy. The prophecy that had warned of human arrival was about to begin its fulfillment, and the universe would never be the same. The age of human expansion had officially begun, not with conquest or colonization, but with a handshake between species who had never imagined they would meet. And, in that moment, both human and alien began to understand that the future would be far stranger and more wonderful than either had dared to dream. 3 months had passed since the UES Endeavour first docked at Deep Space Station Harmony, and Captain Sarah Martinez was beginning to understand why the ancient prophecy had spoken of humans as a threat. Not because they were violent or conquering, but because they were infectious in the most unexpected way. She walked through the station's Grand Bazaar, a massive spherical chamber where hundreds of species traded goods, ideas, and stories. When she had first arrived, the aliens had conducted their business with quiet efficiency, following patterns established over millennia. Now, the bazaar buzzed with something entirely new: excited chatter, experimental laughter, and the constant hum of beings trying things they had never attempted before. Captain Martinez called out a voice that sounded like singing crystals. She turned to see Merchant Veltar approaching, his crystalline form shifting through various colors. 3 months ago, the Velthari had been known throughout the galaxy for their precise, emotionless business transactions. Now, Veltar wore what could only be described as a smile carved into his crystal face. "Veltar, good to see you. How's the new venture going?" The alien merchant's form literally sparkled with excitement. "Beyond all calculations. The food truck concept your engineer Rodriguez suggested has revolutionized how we approach commerce. Instead of waiting for customers to come to us, we go to them. Yesterday, I sold 17 different species of variation of what you call ice cream using local ingredients. The Morgothi particularly enjoyed the quantum frosted variety." Martinez grinned. Rodriguez had been sharing human innovations with anyone who would listen, and the results were transforming the station daily. What started as simple suggestions had become a galaxy-wide phenomenon of experimentation and innovation. "Captain," came another voice, this one like the sound of wind through metal trees. Ambassador Threndar of the chorus glided over, his metallic form moving in ways that seemed to defy physics. "I must thank you again for the gift of music theory. My people have been creating symphonies using gravitational waves. The composition we premiered last week caused 3 star systems to request cultural exchange programs. This was becoming a regular occurrence. Every day brought new reports of species across the galaxy attempting human-style innovations. The Zephyrian High Council was meeting in emergency sessions trying to understand what was happening to their orderly empire. "Captain Martinez, please report to Conference Room Alpha," announced the station's communication system and observer Kethvar's voice. As she made her way through the corridors, Martinez noticed more changes. The walls now displayed artwork created by collaborative efforts between species who had never worked together before. A group of young Zephyrians sat in a circle with Dr. Tanaka, engaged in something that looked suspiciously like a debate, something unheard of in their culture just months ago. Conference Room Alpha was filled with representatives from a dozen species, but all eyes were on the central holographic display showing a star map of the local galaxy. Red indicators marked systems where human-influenced changes were being reported. "Ah, Captain," greeted Kethvar as she entered. "We were just discussing your species' remarkable impact on galactic civilization." "I'm not sure remarkable is the word I'd use," replied Supreme Chancellor Mordun, though his tone was more curious than critical. "Unprecedented might be more accurate." Admiral Zarthek, who had initially advocated for destroying humanity before they could reach the stars, gestured at the star map. "In 3 months, you have managed to disrupt social patterns that have been stable for thousands of years. The question is whether this is evolution or infection." Martinez took her seat at the conference table, feeling once again like she was representing all of humanity in discussions far beyond her experience. "With respect, Admiral, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. We haven't disrupted anything, we've just shared ideas. Ideas that are spreading across the galaxy faster than any plague," noted Council Member Yathera. "The Corvin Collective abandoned their hive mind structure last week to experiment with individual creativity. The Eternal Order of Silos started asking questions about their religious doctrine. Even the mechanical aggregation has begun creating art. And this is bad because it's unprecedented." Zarthek's voice rose in frustration. "We have maintained galactic peace for over 5,000 years through careful balance and established order. Your species arrives and, within months, everything we've built is changing." Dr. Tanaka's voice came through the communication system. "May I join this discussion? I've been studying the changes from an anthropological perspective." "Please do, Doctor," Kethvar replied, and, moments later Tanaka's image appeared as a hologram at the table. "I've been analyzing the pattern of changes across the galaxy," she began, "and I think I understand what's happening. It's not that humans are forcing change, we're providing permission for changes that these species already wanted to make." "Explain," requested Mordun. "Every species we've encountered has shown curiosity about human behavior, but, more importantly, they've shown curiosity about concepts they've never been allowed to explore. The Velthari have always had the intelligence for creative commerce, but their society never encouraged individual innovation. The Zephyrians are naturally inquisitive, but their culture values consensus over exploration of new ideas." Tanaka brought up her own data displays. "Humans aren't special because we're more intelligent or more advanced. We're notable because we never learned to stop asking what if? Our entire history has been one long experiment in trying things that shouldn't work. And most of them don't work," Martinez added with a rueful smile. "Humans fail constantly. We just don't let that stop us from trying again." "This is precisely what the prophecy warned about," Kethvar said quietly. "The ancient stone spoke of a species that would teach the galaxy to dream. Dreams are chaos. Dreams disrupt order. Dreams also create wonders," countered a new voice. Everyone turned to see Commander Torres, the Endeavor's science officer, entering the room. "Sorry I'm late. I was in the research labs with Dr. Zilith." Dr. Zilith was a Zephyrian scientist who had become fascinated with human scientific methodology. Unlike the careful, systematic approach favored by her people, humans tended to make intuitive leaps that led to breakthrough discoveries. "What have you two been working on?" asked Martinez. Torres grinned. "Something that shouldn't be possible, but somehow works anyway. Dr. Zilith applied human-style intuitive reasoning to a problem her people have been working on for centuries: faster-than-light communication without quantum entanglement." The room fell silent. Instantaneous communication across galactic distances was considered theoretically impossible by even the most advanced civilizations. "Did you succeed?" asked Mordun, his voice barely a whisper. "We built a working prototype yesterday," Torres replied casually. It's in the lab if you want to see it. Admiral Zarthek stood up abruptly. This is exactly what I feared. In 3 months, humans have inspired changes that are reshaping our entire civilization. Where does it end? Why does it need to end? Asked Martinez. Is change necessarily bad? Change is unpredictable, Yathara replied. We've built a peaceful galaxy through careful planning and measured progress. If every species suddenly starts experimenting with fundamental changes, then maybe we'll find better ways to live together, suggested Dr. Tanaka. Or maybe some experiments will fail and we'll learn from those failures. That's how progress works. Ketvar had been quietly consulting with the prophecy stones through his personal communicator. When he looked up, his expression was thoughtful. The stones are showing me new visions. The future is becoming unclear, not because it's ending, but because it's branching into too many possibilities to predict. Is that bad? Asked Martinez. I don't know, Ketvar admitted. For the first time in our history, the prophecy stones cannot see a clear future. They show me countless potential timelines, all beginning from this moment, all different. Supreme Chancellor Mordun stood and walked to the large viewport that showed the stars beyond the station. Perhaps, he said slowly, that is not a curse, but a gift. Meaning? For thousands of years, we have followed a predetermined path. We expanded our empire, brought order to chaos, established peace through conformity. It was predictable, stable, and, ultimately, static. He turned back to face the assembly. The humans have shown us that there are other paths. Uncertain paths, dangerous paths, but also paths that lead to wonders we never imagined. So what do we do? Asked Zarthek. We learn, Mordun replied simply. We adapt. We discover what happens when an ordered galaxy meets a species that thrives on chaos and creativity. Martinez felt a strange sense of responsibility settling on her shoulders. We never intended to disrupt anything. We just wanted to reach the stars. And, in reaching for them, Ketvar observed, you've taught the rest of us to reach as well. As the meeting broke up, Martinez found herself standing with Ketvar at the viewport, watching ships from dozens of species moving through space. Many of them now showed modifications inspired by human engineering, not copies, but adaptations that combined alien technology with human innovation. The prophecy spoke of humans as either salvation or destruction, Ketvar said quietly. I'm beginning to think it might be both. How so? You're destroying the galaxy we knew ordered, predictable, safe. But you're also saving us from stagnation, from the slow death of never growing or changing. In the distance, Martinez could see a new ship launching from the station's construction bay. It was a collaborative effort between human engineers and Zephyrian builders, designed using principles that neither species could have developed alone. It was beautiful, impossible, and somehow perfectly functional, exactly the kind of thing humans were known for. The galaxy's going to be very different 100 years from now, she observed. Yes, Ketvar agreed. And, for the first time in millennia, none of us know exactly what it will look like. As Martinez headed back to her quarters, she passed through the education center where human teachers were sharing their methods with alien educators. She saw children from a dozen species working together on projects that would have been unthinkable just months ago. They were building, creating, dreaming together. The ancient prophecy had warned that humans would teach the galaxy to dream. Looking at these young beings from across the stars, Martinez realized the prophecy had been right. But dreams, she was learning, weren't something to be feared. Dreams were just the first step toward making the impossible real. And, throughout the galaxy, species that had forgotten how to dream were beginning to remember, one impossible idea at a time.